Welcome back. Now, in these Ask Dr. Clarke videos, I answer questions from my YouTube subscribers, my podcast subscribers, those in my Facebook group, My Marriage is in Crisis is the title of that group if you'd like to join, and others who email me questions. If you have a question for me, I'd love to answer it. Email me directly at David E. Clarke, Clarke with an E, David E. Clarke, PhD at gmail.com. Now, today's question. My husband has had 2 affairs and has a chronic pornography problem. I get a lot of these cases now, sexual sin epidemic. She continues, I found out about his sexual sins just a few months ago. My pastor is urging me to go to marriage counseling, and my husband says he'll go. Should I go? Well, just about everyone in the Christian community would say, well, that's a no-brainer. Of course you're going to go to marriage counseling. My answer is no, you shouldn't go. Not yet. Classic mistake is to go to marriage counseling too soon. I don't care if he's willing to go. That means nothing. He may just be going to look good. This happens all the time. You don't know if he's repentant yet. It's too soon for marriage counseling. I don't care if he says he's repentant. Words mean absolutely nothing at this point in the ballgame. Saying you're repentant and actually being repentant are 2 very different things. He has to prove his repentance. It's too soon for marriage counseling. I don't care if he truly is repentant now. He could be genuinely sorry for his awful sins. He could say he loves you and will do anything to save the marriage. He has done no work on his sexual addiction, and that's what he's got with 2 affairs, chronic pornography, sexual addiction. Because he hasn't done his work on the addiction, he's not ready for marriage counseling. And he can't work on his addiction and the marriage at the same time. Many counselors try that, and pastors fails every time, literally every time. One thing at a time. It's too soon for marriage counseling. I don't care if you, the victim, want to go to marriage counseling. Many ladies in this situation would. He's willing to go. Let's go to marriage counseling. It's a marriage problem. No, it's not a marriage problem yet. It's going to be. It's a sin problem right now and an addiction problem. Plus, you have some healing to do. As the victim here, you need to make sure your husband is in solid recovery as well before you give your heart to him in a marriage counseling process and you're vulnerable. It's too soon for marriage counseling. Here's what I want you to do. All of you in this situation are obviously interested in this lady. And by the way, if any of you want more guidance on this topic, you can do a 45-minute phone advice session with me. I do these all the time, spouses across the country who have a marital crisis. You can check that out on the website, davideclarkephd.com. Okay, here's what I want you to do. You tell your pastor and your husband, and you're not mean about it, you're just straight across, that it's too soon for marriage counseling. You have leverage now. You're the victim. He has hurt you. What you say goes. You can blame me if you want. Ask them to watch this video. I'm fine with that. Also tell your husband he needs to work hard on his sexual addiction with a Christian therapist for 4 to 5 months. That's how long it's going to take before we know he's in absolutely solid recovery. He's been at this for years. He'll do individual therapy and he'll be in a sexual addiction group. That's the 1-2 punch. Individual therapy, sexual addiction group. Could be one of these Celebrate Recovery groups, which I think are awesome and have really made a difference in the Christian community in the area of addiction. Choose a therapist who is a committed Christian, a male, licensed in your state, and experienced in treating sexual addiction. You don't want a counselor, even if it's a nice person, who doesn't have expertise with sexual addiction. Don't use a therapist who's sweet and passive. You want one who's tough and has a clear plan of action with homework for your husband. This is not the kind of therapist who, when you come in every time, he says, well, or she, hey, well, how's it going today? How are you doing? No. There's a clear series of steps. They have homework assignments, very specific, very practical. That's how I work, and I think it's the way this therapist needs to work with your husband. Now, you are involved in the selection of the therapist, and you go with your husband to the first session. You want to make sure this is the right man for your husband. And you need to make sure he knows the entire truth. On the chance that your husband isn't going to tell him everything, you know it, and you've got to let him know. And then he'll lay out his plan. First session, this is how I work. He can tell you his plan. Here's how we're going to do it. Exactly. Now, your husband will sign a release in that first session so you can get regular updates on his progress from his therapist. Oh, yeah. You've been outside long enough. No secrets. Everything on the table. Now, your husband will tell you everything, of course, after every session, chapter and verse. That's part of the ongoing healing, even for the two of you, and to know that he's really changing. In detail, no more secrets. And you can call the therapist whenever you want, because he signed the release, your husband, and you can find out what's going on. Now, you also need to find a therapist, a Christian one, and do a few months of individual healing yourself. This person must be a different therapist, not the one your husband is seeing. It doesn't work for any therapist to see both individuals on an ongoing basis in individual therapy. The wires get crossed, doesn't work, don't do it. You find someone else. Now, as you work on healing from the wounds your husband has inflicted on you, that happens in the process. You get into healing, you get into recovery. That's part of your work. Also, you find out how to stay pulled back from your husband and be assertive and strong as he works on his addiction. Do not forgive him right away. Do not trust him right away. That is going to take time. That's a process. I often work with the victim in these cases. I refer the sexual addict. He gets the help he needs, and then I'll work with the victim, and then often I may do some work with them as a couple. Now, the two therapists involved, yours and his, can certainly coordinate with the right releases, and when they think you are both ready for couple counseling, they'll say so, and you can start that process. Now, the addict may have more work to do, but he's in solid recovery. Not all the way done, but past the point of no return. We know he's got it. Now, when you begin marriage counseling, the first thing you do is focus on his sexual sins and heal from the damage he caused you and the marriage. You don't do standard marriage counseling work. You're not rebuilding the marriage yet. Communication, conflict, family of origin issues, all that's later. You need to heal from what he's done to you. Now, you can use my book, I Don't Love You Anymore, for that opening process in the couple counseling. I think it'd be very helpful to you. Also, I have a video that you both can watch on my website titled How to Recover from Adultery. This is my basic approach. It kind of lays out what the book says, and I think it'll be very helpful to you in the process. Now, if you have a question you'd like to ask me, email me directly, again, as I said before, at davideclarkephd@gmail.com, and I may answer it on one of these videos. I may not, but chances are I will. And if you're benefiting from these videos, and I hope you are, sharing them with your friends, people that need help. We all know people that need help, and they're in crisis. Then subscribe to my YouTube channel and tap the like button. That'll help us expand our audience, save more marriages, and empower spouses who are facing a marital crisis.